Well, Naomi Wolf is back with a brand new book, and you know what that means. Actually, you probably don't, because I haven't talked about Naomi Wolf in a video before. Mostly because it has blessedly been 7 years since her previous book, which was an unmitigated disaster. And spoiler alert, looks like this one is too. To catch you up, Wolf is a feminist who some people seem to view as the voice of our generation, or at least an important voice of our generation. She's written several books from her own feminist lens, including The Beauty Myth and Vagina. Her most recent book is called Outrages, Sex, Censorship, and the Criminalization of Love, which discusses the history of homophobic legislation and criminality in the Victorian era, culminating in the life and career of the gay poet John Addington Symonds. In the course of a BBC Radio 3 interview with historian Matthew Sweet, Wolf realized live on air that she had made a pretty egregious error in her newly published book. She claimed that dozens of men had been executed in Victorian England simply for being gay, which she says Symonds would have read about in the local papers when he was a teenager, leading to conflicting feelings over his sexuality. The problem, as Sweet points out, is that none of that ever actually happened. Wolf read reports of men convicted of sodomy that read, quote, death recorded. And instead of researching what that legal term meant, she instead just assumed it meant they were executed. They were not. It's a stupid legal term, but if you're writing a book about it, you might want to look it up. What death recorded actually means is that the law says, there's an old law on the books that says they should be executed for this crime. However, we've come a long way from that law. We're not going to abide by that. We're going to give out a lesser sentence instead. Sweet went into more detail in the interview and also on Twitter, revealing that not only were none of these men executed, but there's no evidence that the crime of sodomy that they committed was even consensual. These weren't necessarily men in, sexual relationships with other men. Several of the men were convicted of abusing kids. And for the others, for whom there's no record of the victim, the victim isn't being charged. So if the person was in a consensual relationship with another man, surely there would be 2 men on trial. But in this case, there was only 1 man on trial and then an unnamed victim. What are the chances that that unnamed victim was a man who consented to having sex with this man? The fact that this all happened live on the radio is amazing and horrible. It's like watching a slow motion train wreck or a real life Curb Your Enthusiasm episode. And it was also just really satisfying because Wolf has spent way too long taking up space in feminist circles, all the while being an inveterate bullshitter. Her previous book, Vagina, was an absolute dumpster fire of pseudoscience, full of bullshit like, your vagina is a goddess-shaped hole. Really? Is that what a goddess is shaped like? Yikes. And that's before she gets into evolutionary psychology, which is a dicey subject even before someone of Naomi Wolf's intellectual merit gets involved. She preaches debunked hypotheses about the adaptive purpose of the female orgasm and declares that dopamine is a feminist chemical, for fuck's sake. And Naomi Wolf's book prior to Vagina, The Beauty Myth, was so incredibly wrong about basic facts that it's hard to understand why anyone ever agreed to publish it. As just one example, she claimed that most women have bulimia or anorexia. Most women. She claimed that 150,000 women die from anorexia every year in the United States. The actual number, somewhere around 500, not 150,000. Still way too many, but come on. Not only was that published, but publishers, even after recognizing the mistakes in her book, allowed her to publish 2 more books, also with absolutely zero fact-checking. And the media just soaks it all up. I mean, even The Guardian gave the book a good, credulous review the week before her interview with Sweet. So thank God an actual historian did the research and called her out on her shit. And he didn't even read the whole book. He says that he just cracked it open, picked a passage, and then did a little research, and that's what he found. What would happen if we let Sweet loose on the rest of the book? What would have happened if the publishers did that before publishing the book? I mean, in that case, it's what should happen to the book now, which is it should just be thrown in the trash.